stolen time at my mom's. Take 3. She lives in Bronxville, Westchester, north of the city, and it's beautiful and green here. And I live in Brooklyn, and kind of junky area of Brooklyn. I mean, it's turning around or whatever, but it's definitely not that pretty. And I never thought that I would care, but taking the baby out for a walk, and I'm not an outdoorsy person. In fact, I don't really like, it's not that I don't like nature, of course I like nature, but give me a city any day of the week, my heart actually goes out to the little baby, and I feel like, you need to be in green, which I never felt before. So like that's a super interesting thing of how like things that you were okay with for yourself, or at least for me, things that I was okay with for myself are now totally in question because of him. But what's interesting is that I feel like the intrinsic, I don't know if intrinsic is the right word, but like the value of what I prefer for him now is actually higher. Meaning, nature is of course very healthy and wonderful for you. Getting plenty of sleep is very good for you. Like all these things that I'm like, for myself, that I'm now interested in for him are actually things that are like higher quality of life and whatnot. That would be great for me to have too. So he's here on the floor on a little bouncer, and he's 9 weeks today, which I was super against the baby bouncers in the beginning, and that's yet another thing that slowly over time has become, I've contradicted myself about. I wanted to carry him the entire time, and I wanted him basically his feet to not touch the floor until he was ready to crawl, until he wanted. And I mean, the main thing I think now is like, who is this baby? Like, who is he? Because he has kind of permanent frown on his face. It's super cute, but he looks like confused, concerned, grumpy, like kind of all the time, other than these few magical moments. Like now, actually, he's looking at me with like little Bambi eyes, and so like I'm like, who's this baby? Because what I'm aware of is how much I'm projecting onto him. Actually, everything, right? Everything I'm projecting onto him. And it's pretty hard to, or at least hard for me, to tease out, like, what is a projection? Who is he? Because this little facial expression that I'm telling you is like a frown. It's like, maybe that's just his face. And it means nothing about his state of being. He's starting to smile now, and he's super cute. He also has discovered his hands, but one thing I learned, which is brilliant, I was super proud of myself, is that he doesn't yet realize that his hands are his hands. So he'll put them in his mouth to soothe himself, and then he'll like flutter them about, and he'll start crying because he lost his pacifier. Brilliant. And I put it to the test. I mean, I observed it maybe 3 times, and it happens like without fail each time. So now I finally understand why out of nowhere he started crying, which was like a whole mystery for a few days. So I was like, why, you were fine 2 seconds ago. So the projections are like, just like, you know, he seems grumpy all the time, but is he really, my heart goes out to him when he's on the little bouncy chair. I feel like he can't possibly be fine. He looks abandoned, and he looks, you know, neglected, and yet maybe he likes his space. Maybe he's fine that way. Like, you know, it's like, I have no idea how to determine this, because I imagine little babies and children get used to whatever you offer them and whatever the environment is. So if there's an environment of neglect, that child will get used to neglect, and I imagine be pretty much okay with it. And if there's, you know, so like, I don't know what I'm doing, obviously, but I don't know how to read into things, basically. Um, and I have to try not to drive myself crazy with that.